Hello, hello, and thank you for joining me today. It's Tony McClelland here, Critical Reflections with your critical friend on the Tony McClelland Show. And as you should know by now, I love supporting all things business, social causes, and third sector charities. So I'm really a champion for all you social entrepreneurs out there. And this particular show is about those topical themes and supporting entrepreneurs. And today I have a very special guest, Paul Smolinski, who, because we're going to be talking about the art of networking and some really effective ways to network. So I'm just going to say hi to Paul. How are you today, Paul?
Hi, Tony. I'm great, and thank you for having me on your show today. It's a great honor.
No problem. You're welcome. So why don't you just... I let my guests introduce themselves because, so why don't you just take a few seconds, just tell us who you are, what you're doing right now, and then we'll get into it.
Sure. So, yeah, my name's Paul Smolinski. I'm currently Global Director for the Hungarian British Business Alliance Network. So I connect members together around Britain and Hungary and around the world. And also I'm a business consultant for various companies as well that I do coaching on. So that's what I do at the moment.
Okay, so thank you, Paul. Really, really great. And for anyone that's watching now, feel free if you want to come with any questions. You don't need to be shy. Or if you would like to watch it later on, then feel free and just drop your comments in the chat and we can pick them up later on. But there are going to be some really great tips for you, so have your pen and paper ready. But before we get into all of that, Paul, I just want to kind of find out, because I know that you do some international networking now. You're connecting businesses across the globe, and that is really, really fundamental and key. And we're going to come back to that in just a short while. But before we do, let's find out about Paul. Who is Paul Smolinski and what got you on this route? So tell us, what were you like as a young Paul? What was young Paul like?
So I grew up in Cardiff. I've always been a Cardiff boy, born and bred. I went to St. Tyler's High School. I was one of those people that didn't like school. I was more interested in sports. My ambition when I was in school is to be a professional snooker player. That was my main goal, and I was one of those guys that used to bunk off school and play snooker. I'd only go to school to play football because I was always interested in sports, and I couldn't wait to get out of school. And it was only when I realised when I left school that I wish I stayed in school and studied and learned. That's one of the things that you think, oh, I wish I did that when I was older. And so yeah, that was one thing I did. But
can I just ask you? So you were born and raised in Cardiff, as you said, which is in South Wales for my international audience there. So what was it that you really liked about school, or why did you want to stay in school?
I think for me in school, it was like, once I learned to sort of read and write and all that, I was always sort of quite entrepreneurial. I used to, my grandparents used to have a restaurant on Penarth Seafront. And I remember from the age of like 12 years old, I used to sell ice creams outside for 50 pence and get pocket money. So I always had that sort of entrepreneurial side of me that I wanted to just earn money, and do things and have things and buy nice things. And then when they sold the restaurant, they went into working on Cardiff market stalls, selling items, from toys to pens to novelty things. And I used to go there on a Sunday morning and help them sell products on Cardiff Market, down Besson Road Market, and spot markets. And I was like 13, 14 years old. And then I used to work for my friend's dad, where I used to be one of those guys in Cardiff Queen Street selling news, Christmas paper and slippers and sellotape. And I was like 13, 14. So I started really, really young as a sort of a sales sort of entrepreneur, to learn the art of selling. And that's what sort of had some good. It gave me some great grounding. When I was in school, and my motivation was to earn money, because we didn't have a lot of money when I was young. My parents got divorced when I was 13. I had two sisters and a mum, and my nan lived with us. So things were tough. Things were difficult, and times were hard. And I had to think, well, what am I going to do? And so instead of doing like a little paper round where most people were doing that time, I thought, well, why don't I learn these trades and go to the markets, learn how to sell things, earn some commission, get paid for the day, and I got taught the skills of selling on the markets, which was brilliant. And I saw some some legends down there who were masters at selling, and you just learned on how they did it. So that was good. That was good training when I was like 13, 14 years old.
Yeah, no, it's good. So you had that entrepreneurial flair when you were younger. I remember sharing recently about, I used to work in a clothes shop, and one of my first roles, and, rather than taking the pay, I worked out that it was better to take lots of clothes with the discount rather than money. And I was that person that set up my my school tuck shop. And at the end of the week, I remember saying to my teacher, when do I get paid? And she said, pay? And I said, what do you mean? I wanted to be paid for this stuff. So I really do get your story, Paul, of that entrepreneurial flair. And did you used to do car boot sales and things like that as well?
I used to do car boot sales, and I used to go to school, and I used to you could buy like three chocolates for £1 or something then. I used to sell them in school, because in the school tuck shop, I used to be cheaper than what they were. So I used to take cans of Coke and Mars bars and marathons, and just try and just hustle and bustle and just try and make money, really. And so I'd have money to go and play snooker and buy things, buy like trainers or buy clothes and stuff like that. So yeah, that's what was my sort of inspiration when I was younger. And and watching like TV programs like Minder, with Arthur Daly and all that sort of thing, just trying to sell things was just was brilliant. It was just one of those things that I thought, I've got to get out of school. So I left school at 16. I didn't take any exams. I think I left in January. My exams were in May. And I thought, no, I ain't going to do this. I'm going to go and get a job. And I got a job at 16 years old. I was earning about 80, 90 pounds a week. I don't know if you remember the pop company used to be called Alpine Pop. And they used to deliver pop to people's doors. And there was a place where I used to live in Pentwain when I grew up. There was a factory there, and I got a job there. And I used to knock people's doors to sell pop, like Coca-Cola, Raspberry Aid, and all that. So I used to talk to all the mums at the doors and sell them pop, and used to get commission. And I used to love it. So that was my first job when I left school.
Wow, that reminds me of I think my experience of pop used to be R. White's cream soda, in the bottles.
Yeah.
Returnable bottles and stuff.
Yeah,
so yeah.
you got your bottles, love. You got your bottles, and they say, yeah, you get your 5%, you get your 5p back, and all that. And I only lasted 2 weeks in the job, and the reasons why I lasted only 2 weeks is that I used to carry the crates of bottles, right? There was like 12 bottles of pop in a crate, and they were quite heavy. And I was carrying a crate one day, and a bottle exploded, and it hit me right in the mouth there, and I had about 12 stitches. And my mum said, "You ain't going back there as a job. You ain't going back, no matter what. You could have your eye out." So I had compensation from the company. I think I had about £1,000. So I had to leave that. And then I said, right, okay. So I went to the careers office, and they said, right, what do you want to do? I said, I don't know. I just wanted to play snooker. My ambition was to be a professional snooker player. And I realized that you got to be good to be a professional snooker player. That's what I thought. So I thought, do I do it or not? So I went to the careers office. They said, what do you want to do? They said, and they gave me a list of jobs. They said, do you want to be a painter and decorator, a builder, or do you want to work in a shop? Blah, blah. So I tell you what, I want to be a painter and decorator. I don't know why I chose that job. I just did. I went, right, okay. So I started on a YTS course for 6 months, and I didn't lift the paintbrush for 6 months, thinking, hang on, I'm supposed to be a painter and decorator. When am I painting? I said, no, you got to learn a little hard work first. So I jacked that in, didn't like that. And they said, well, what else do you like? I said, well, I quite like clothes. I like fashion. They said, right, okay, we got a job for you. You can work in Alders of Cardiff department store. You can work on the menswear department, selling Levi's and jeans, and Levi's and Lee jeans. And I did that. And I got a job working there as a YTS. They took me on full time. I was on £25 a week. I had to give my mum a £5 a week out of that. I think I had more money then than I ever had. And it was brilliant. And then unfortunately the store closed down.
So hold on. So let's go back for a second, because you're talking about YTS, and that's bringing me back to I think we're showing our ages here, actually, Paul, a little bit. But so you were really interested in the creative things. Okay, so you like sport, but you showed an interest in painting. You had that entrepreneurial skill until you had that accident, and then you went into, designer clothes, I guess, in a kind of way. So before we move on to the next bit, thank you so much for those of you that are joining us. Do pop on if you feel that you would like to, and just come and say hi. Tell us where you're listening from, and if you have a question for Paul, then please do put it in the chat. Happy to answer any. Yeah, I'm happy to kind of make the most of him here, basically, is what I'm trying to say. So pop on, let us know that you're here. So Paul, so you went into, was it Alders of Cardiff, you said?
Alders of Cardiff. It was like House of Fraser, one of the department stores.
And then that closed down. And then what happened there?
So I was working full time there. And I'll tell you one thing I do remember from that store there is that they had this elderly gentleman there, right? He was in his 80s, and he was the greatest sales guy I ever saw. He was a master, and he used to work on a concession department called Centaur, which was like a suit concession, and he would sell anything to a customer there, and I used to watch him, and I watched him for weeks and months and months and months and months. And I learned the art of how he did it, from the start to the middle to the end. He was a master. And in the end, I thought, listen, I got to master this, how he does it. And luckily, I knew nothing about suits at all, nothing whatsoever. And then when the store closed, I applied for a job in House of Fraser to go and work on Dash Man, which was like, it was like Benetton's. It was like Benetton, like very casual tracksuits and all that.
Yeah, I remember.
And I was 18 years old, and I applied for a job there, and it was part-time. And luckily enough, I was there for 2 months, and the manager left. And I said to the area manager, 18 years old, no qualifications at all. I said, listen, I can do this manager's job in this role as a concession manager. They said, well, you've only been here like a couple of months. And I said, listen, give me a chance. And what I did learn is obviously the art of selling, the art of sales. And I smashed the figures to smithereens. They gave me the job. And I was the youngest concession manager in House of Fraser, Cardiff, at 18 years old. And
Wow.
I always remember.
That's impressive. That's impressive, Paul. But I'm going to pause you right there, because what you've got is you told us about your journey in school. You didn't really like school. You loved all the sports. You left early, and then regretted leaving early. You went into a variety of different things, but knew your entrepreneurial spirit, and you went from Alders. But ultimately, are you saying that your inspiration at that time was an 80-year-old that you kind of watched? You thought that he was great in terms of the sales, and would you say that you replicated what you learned from him into your way into this new job?
100%. And I think now, going back, I'm 56 now, going back at 18 years old, learning in sales and business is crucial in any business, what you do. And I thought, you know what I learned at 17, 18 years old was priceless. From the masters who've been doing it for like all their lives, like 60, 50, 60 years. These guys have been doing it.
And that's absolutely crucial. I'm going to come in there, because that's absolutely crucial, because that takes us right into where we're going here now. Because what you've done is you've set the scene. You've told us that, because some of the things that we learn when we're 17 and 18, they stay with us. There's a reason, and that's embedded within you now, isn't it, Paul, that you've mastered what it is that you're doing and taken it to another level. But before you jump in, I just want to say hi to Leslie, who I know is joining us just outside of London. She wanted to say hi. So thank you so much, Leslie. Don't be shy. Anybody else, do come on and I can give you a shout out if you want to. So, Paul, now, one of the things that I know is that, I know, but some other people may know too, is that I spend some of my time in South Wales and some of my time in London, England. And when I'm in South Wales, even though I've got clients globally and I work outside of that, I just knew that I'm spending some time in South Wales and I actually want to connect with people here in South Wales. So, having met you, I think it was 14 years ago I met you, and you were at the top of my mind. I thought, right, who's the master connector in South Wales that I need to get in touch with? And I reached out and we had that coffee, and, we haven't looked back since. We're literally on the phone almost 2-3 times a week, and we're always connecting and introducing each other, different people to each other, and it's fantastic. But you were the master connector. So tell me, what have you been doing? Because I know that you do lots of connecting across businesses globally. You've had events where you've had the likes of Hilary Devey, Lord Sugar, Richard Branson. So tell us what you do in terms of networking. And then I really want us to spend a good few minutes sharing some real great tips around networking for those that are watching. So do you want to give us a little bit of insight?
Yeah, well, obviously, I went into the networking side my previous company. I started with that, and it was a lifestyle business, and I joined that with Trace and my ex-wife, and and we had, and the vision was, how do you reach for the stars, because I thought, if I'm going to come into this business, I'm not going to come in just to say make a difference and and just be like everyone else in the community. If I'm going to come into this, we have to make an impression, we have to make a stance, and also we have to do something different to attract people. And I remember when I joined the network, as a director, there was like 30 odd members that were in it, and I thought, right, okay, let's give it a year. And then within a year, I think we grew it to like 100 companies that joined. And then
and some of this, Paul, though, was because of your previous networks that you brought on board. Yeah, because I just want to hold on to the fact that you said, if you're going to enter into something, you've got to reach for the stars. How can you reach for the stars? And I think that's very poignant. So don't
Yeah,
you? Because it's kind of like hypothetically, but actually in reality too.
yeah. And I tell you what, obviously, I think we reached when I was like, 18 when I went to House of Fraser as the youngest manager there. Then I went to the fashion world, and then and there was one poignant time in my life where I was 21 years old. My wife at the time came to the shop and said to me, Paul, just let you know, you're going to be a dad at 21 years old. And that was like the biggest wake up call and motivation. That was something that was just life changing. I thought, you got to get your act together now, and you've got to produce and provide for a family. And that determination gave me such an inspiration to say, right, okay, I'm going to get to the next level in my career. And my goal at 18, 19 years old is to be an area manager at 21 years old. And there wasn't many area managers in retail at 21, not for like, big retailers. You have to have qualifications, you have to have experience, you had the whole lot. And luckily for me, in the fashion world, in the menswear world, I got to that level. I got to an area manager when I was 23 years old for a big organization. So most area managers were like in their 40s and 50s. I achieved that because of the determination that I was going to be a dad at 21. And I had to provide. And the goal was to be an area manager. And I achieved that in that time. And that led me to ambition, and to be in the number one in any company I worked for, was be the top guy in sales or in leadership or in management. I had to be that way because that's what drove me to the success I had to be to produce my family. And then,
no, that's great. That's great. So that's about ambition, isn't it? It's really about ambition.
And 2 years later, I had my daughter. So I had two children. When I was 24 years old, and that's what made me say, listen, you've got to shine. And I'm talking about, in some companies there was something like 10 or 12 area managers, and you had to shine. And luckily in my career, and those who work for me in the retail sector, they saw what I did, and I proved the sales ability what I had.
So that's great. So let's move into, and let's spend the final kind of third of this session here into networking. Yeah, because we all know the key. Why, we all need people in business, whether they're clients, collaborators, partners, funders. We all need people. And you will find people in networking. So you decided to enter into the field of networking, into that space with your vast network. Yeah, is that right?
Yeah.
So share what it is that you're doing right now around international networking, Paul.
Yeah, I think one thing I just want to share with the audience as well is that there's always key people that inspire you to do things in life, and one person that inspired me to go into this world, the world of networking, was Sharon Lechter. And those who don't know who Sharon Lechter is, she was the co-founder of Rich Dad Poor Dad, one of the biggest selling books of all time. And I was one of those guys who went to the audience in London, 500 people, saw her on stage and blown away, thinking, my God, the things she's saying, I've been doing this thing in networking for the last 20 years. I never even knew I was doing it. Didn't even resolute at all whatsoever. Okay. And it was when I realized, when I learned what I've been doing, that I thought, hang on a minute, I've been doing this. I didn't even know I mastered it already. So that was one thing I did learn from Sharon. And later on, Sharon mentored me for 3 years, and it was a life-changing experience. And she was the one that educated me and trained me, and showed me the skills of the art of networking, because you have to learn it from somewhere, and someone has to train you and educate you and master it. And she was the one that did that for me. And I'm even to this day now, 10 years later, I'm still in talks with her now on a regular basis. And she taught me the goals. But one of the key things in networking is who's your target audience, is who do you want to meet. And if you want to meet certain people, is where do they hang out? Who are their close friends? And I'll give you an example. How did I get Lord Sugar? How did I get Grant Cardone? How did I get Richard Branson? And there's a true saying: there's no such a free lunch. You have to pay to be in rooms where these people are going to be, or you have to be in events where they're going to be, and that's the bottom line. And the story with Lord Sugar is that I went to an event in London. I met this guy who represented Mark Wright, one of the Apprentice winners. He asked to speak at my event. I didn't know him from Adam. I said, "Sorry, Mark, we're full this year. You can't speak, but you can speak. You can speak next year." And he did. He spoke the following year on my show. And then the light bulb moment came. Because the light bulb moment came, thinking, "Hang on a minute. If he's an Apprentice winner, yeah, he can get me Lord Sugar." And the dream was, how do I get Lord Sugar to come to my show? It took me 2 years to get Lord Sugar. And the secret to get people to come to your events, or the secret to interview them, or get close to them, is who they surround themselves with and who they're close to. And luckily for me, it was Mark Wright and Elena, who was another Apprentice winner. They got Lord Sugar for me. It took them 2 years, and they basically said, "Come and talk to this event in Wales, in Cardiff. It's one of the best expos in the UK, probably one of the top 3 in the UK. You got to come and speak at." And when they were talking to him, he just announced saying, "I'm not doing any of talking events. I'm not going anything out of London." And they had to convince him to say, "You've got to come to Cardiff and speak at this event, with like 7,000 people coming." They did. And we agreed on a figure and agreed on the price. And I'll give you a little tip as well. The figure he quoted, my ex-wife was in the middle of typing the email back saying thanks, but no thanks. And I went, "Hang on a minute. Do not send that email what you want to send." And I said to her, "Listen, leave it to me. We will raise the money to raise his fee. We will definitely raise it." And she said, "It's impossible." I said, "Leave it to me." And I did. I raised that money to pay for his fee to come to Cardiff. And that was one of the most life-changing decisions we ever met, is to say no to something. But I said, "No, we're going to do it. We're going to achieve it." And I did. And I achieved it, got the money in, paid for his fee, brought Lord Sugar to Cardiff. And that's what changed the difference between me getting Richard Branson, because it put me in that league of billionaires.
Because ultimately it's almost like a catalyst, but you've got to take risks as well, haven't you? You've got to, like you said, show up in the room. You've got to take the risk to do that. So fascinating story, Paul. So now you do this full time, you connect people all over the globe, but it was that one kudos to Mark Wright and Elena, did you say? For really.
And I'll just give you a quick story. Richard Branson. How did I get to work with Richard Branson for a whole week in his house? We went to an event in Ireland, and there was an audience there of 400 people, and we stood on stage and said, "Anyone in the audience?"
Oh, we've missed just that little bit there, Paul.
"I know this girl who's just come back from his house on a trip. I can introduce you to her." I said, "Brilliant." So he introduced me to this girl who sang, and she's a good friend of me, Hannah. And I said, I want to get to Richard Branson, because my goal was then, I brought Lord Sugar to Cardiff. I brought Grant Cardone to Cardiff. My goal the following year is to bring Richard Branson to Cardiff. That was the goal. That was the mission. Everyone
you just got hungrier and hungrier, really.
Everyone said to me in the show, "You're never going to top this. You'll never top this ever." And I said, "Listen, you don't know me, guys. Yeah? Every year we go better and better and better." So the plan was to get Richard Branson the following year to come to the show. How do I get to him? So there's a guy in Ireland introduced me to Hannah. She introduced me to Richard Branson's tennis coach. His name was James. And I said, James, really appreciate it. I did reward both of them. They could speak at my events on stage, which they both did. And I got to meet Richard Branson's right-hand man, who was doing big events with Richard. And I met up with him and his 3 partners in Wimbledon at a big event at this house, £10 million house, about 100 guests there. And I met him and I said, listen, I work with billionaires. I'm interested in working with Richard coming to the UK. Okay. Met these 3 guys. Something about them they liked about me, like my passion, like my connections. And they knew that I brought billionaires to Wales. And they said, right, okay, we want to work with you and partner with you. What we'd like you to do, and this is going to be exclusive to you, we'd like you to partner with us at our event at Richard's house, and you can bring guests from the UK to this event. We brought about 12 clients from London and Wales to the event, 250 people there, and it was a life-changing experience. Now, there's only one problem. The cost of the ticket to go was an absolute fortune. And the first thing we thought went, can we really afford it? No. But can we make it happen? Yes. So another risk-taking opportunity. We had to take the risk. And the goal and the dream was always to meet Richard and work with Richard and be a partner with Richard. That was always the goal and the dream when I was a little lad, saying, that would be the ultimate dream. And then we achieved that dream. We went there to his house. Within 5 minutes of going to this house, I had a selfie there. I was doing a live video of Richard Branson's house with 250 people there. And everyone back home were like, I think they all spat their cornflakes out saying, what the hell is he doing in Richard
How did
Branson's
he do it? Absolutely. Absolutely.
How did you do that?
Absolutely. Well, what a fantastic story. And it's really, because it's really taken a different spin in terms of networking, because what you're really saying is, have real drive and ambition, set yourself a goal and always try to be in the room with those people. It's not about quantity, it's about the quality of those people, and do what you can to get in the right place at the right time and make it the right time, is really what you're saying, because ultimately it's about making that first impression positively memorable, valuable, and lasting, because obviously they've taken a chance on you, Paul, and it was for those reasons as well. So that's really, really impressive. You've got to make the effort to take a chance, take a risk, get in the right room with the right people, and be ignited in your spirit. So that's absolutely fantastic. So anything else you want to add to this story before we move to a close? Is there any tips or anything you want to share with people?
I always say to people, never miss the opportunities given to you, because you never know. All the big things that happened in my life is I went there on a purpose, not to expect anything, but things got offered to me at the opportunity. And that's why, I went to London. I went to, most things. I've been abroad many times and met people that have opened doors for me. And it's never been in my local town. It's always been somewhere else. And that's always done it. And I think, the big things I always say is never judge a book by its cover. You never know who you're going to meet all around the world. And I've been lucky enough to do events around the world. The big thing I always say to people is build your community. It's about building your community with the right people. Like I said earlier on to our interview, there's no point having 1,000 connections, where they don't help you. We have 100 connections and they all help you. So surround yourself with the right people that want to help you and help you grow, succeed, and get growth, and support you as well. And the biggest thing for me in business is all about relationships and trust. You've got to work with people you trust. They've got your back, you've got their back, and they're willing to help you as well. And I think the most important thing I say to people when you go to a networking event is the fortune is in the follow-up. If you don't follow up with people, you lose the trust.
But
so
I think
follow up with people.
And I think that so many people in networking get it so wrong. It's not about, they don't see it that building relationships is key. I mean, I'm working with people that I've met 30 years ago that are still bringing me business. Someone said to me about advertising and marketing earlier on, and I thought, well, actually, a lot of my business comes from recommendation and referral and introductions rather than marketing. So ultimately, networking is marketing. You're marketing yourself. Not necessarily your services, you're marketing and that's how I kind of see it. Somebody said to me, oh, you're so good at selling your services. And I said, well, actually, I'm not selling my services, I'm selling me. I'm being me and I'm selling me. So, that's another way to kind of look at it. So, Paul, you've frozen up there. Are you okay? Okay, not sure if we've lost Paul, but what fantastic advice he's just given us about, really being in the right place at the right time and making sure that you follow up, making sure that you've got quality over quantity, taking risks, being ambitious, always striving for betterment and doing better the next time around, and try to focus on building those real relationships rather than pitching. So ultimately, that's where we're at the moment. And, do drop your comments in the chat. Let me know how you found it today and if you found it really, really useful. But this was Paul Smolinski talking to us about how to network effectively, take chances. And if anybody wants to connect with him, then do reach out to me directly and I can give you an introduction. But he's the person that you need to connect to if you want to expand your business globally or locally. He is Mr. Connector. And on that note, I just want to say thank you so much. He's back. So I just want to say thank you so much, Paul. We lost you for a moment, but thank you so much. Really, really good advice. Anything you want to close on before I pull this to a close?
I think one thing I've learned from working with lots of successful entrepreneurs, and I've interviewed hundreds of them, one thing they did say to me is they said to me, get yourself a mentor, work with successful mentors who you can educate and teach you and learn from. That's one thing I've learned from interviewing the greats. They all had top mentors to teach them. So that's one thing I would recommend to any business owner or entrepreneur starting out. Get yourself a good mentor to work with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Paul. So much value today. And I know that very soon you're going to be off abroad, going and doing some international networking. So I'm not going to keep you any longer, but I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your nuggets, and maybe you'll come back again and share some more. But it's a fantastic, really inspiring story as well, and keep up the great work that you're doing. So on that note, I just want to share that networking, we all need people in business, whether it's collaborators, partners, clients, customers. We all need people. Everybody needs somebody. And as Paul has said, it's about building your community and, make sure that you've got the right people in your network, because my husband actually says that, it's about who you hang around. And if you hang around the barbers long enough, you will end up getting your hair cut. So make sure that you're hanging around the right people and that you've got the right people in your network. So on that note, I just want to say thank you to everyone that joined us, and bye for now. Thank you for spending time with me and my guest today on Critical Reflections with Your Critical Friend. Today, you got just a very, very small sprinkling of Tony's fairy dust. But if you'd like more, then do reach out for speaking or hosting. It's TonyMcClelland.com. For social impact, social justice, or social mobility, check out our work at firstlifegroup.com. I look forward to hearing from you. In the meantime, feel encouraged, be inspired, be empowered, and make a difference. Bye for now.